What does leadership mean to you? In 2001, Robert Redford starred in a movie called The Last Castle. This movie not only starred Robert Redford, but James Gandolfini was also in the movie. Great movie, military stylish drama. So if you haven't seen this movie, I highly recommend you check your streaming services, see if The Last Castle is available to watch. The reason why this movie is appropriate today, leadership was on my mind this morning, and this movie gave a dichotomy of two distinctive leadership styles, or two different leadership positions, or the essence of leadership, depends on how you want to describe it. And so for those who haven't seen the movie, of course, if I'm going to be talking about it, there might be some spoilers in here, so too bad, so sad. But anyway, the movie is in my opinion like one of those classic movies you can watch anytime that it comes on. And this is appropriate for the 31 days of sharing because it's a depiction of how we can be leaders in our lives, in our businesses, and in the world. So as a member of Reluctant Success, was part of the Reluctant Success family, leadership is what we do. Leadership is who we are. And in the movie, you have a character who's in charge of this military prison, that's James Gandolfini's character. I think he's a colonel who's in charge of this military prison where you have all different branches of the military being held there. There were now prisoners no longer who made a mistake. He didn't follow the commands of his commanding officer. He went against his orders, went against what he was supposed to do in order to fulfill a military activity, and it cost some people their lives. So now he's coming into the prison as a prisoner. This is the backdrop of the whole movie, the essence of the story. But what I got out of the movie watching this is two very distinctive leadership styles, and how the title of the person, James Gandolfini, still has his title, still has his rank. And Robert Redford has been stripped of his title, been stripped of his rank, has been lowered to this position of prisoner. But what they couldn't strip away from Robert Redford is the essence of the person, the essence of leadership. See, leadership isn't the title, leadership isn't the position, leadership is the person. And the character of the people, the character of the person, is what led folks to follow him, even though he had no longer the rank of general. And that is what is so interesting about leadership, is that leadership has nothing to do with your title, has nothing to do with your position, has everything to do with your essence, your character, who you are. You have the person in charge, James Gandolfini. His leadership style was one where he would look for the darker sides of people. He would want to subscribe or appeal to the worst parts of humanity, the worst parts of who we are. He also was one that would make sure the rules were enforcing the rules for other people, but when it came to himself, the rules could be bent, or blurred, and justify the rules being blurred as part of him. What would you say? As part of just staying in power. So there was always a justification for why he did what he did, right? Versus Robert Redford's character, responsibility he accepted. He one of the parts of the movie, he said, he told the prisoners, he said, the difference between you and me is that I know I'm guilty. So even though he believed what he did was right, he accepted responsibility that he was wrong in the choice that he made because it cost people their lives and he went against his orders. He was also one that wanted to appeal to the better parts of a person. His thing was that even though you were in this condition as a prisoner, there was still some goodness in you. There was still something in you that no matter what could happen to us, nothing can take away who we are. Nothing can take away who you are. And that's important, I think, for all of us to hear today, because we're going through some challenging times in our lives. Some of us have lost our titles, lost our income, lost family members, lost homes for some people. And even though these things are lost, and I know that's hard to take, and I know it's hard to deal with, and it wears on you emotionally and wears on you mentally. I know because I've experienced it myself, and there's been many nights throughout these last 9 months, it seems like it's been 9 months, that I've spent many nights crying and weeping about the things that I had before that are no longer here, that I don't know how it's all going to work out or how it's all going to play out, because I wasn't, no, I won't say I wasn't prepared, but I couldn't predict what was going to happen. Who could have predicted what was going to happen? But at the end of the day, no matter what's been stripped away from us, what we had before didn't make us. We made it. What we had before didn't make us. We made it. You made the income. You made the title. You made the position. The essence of who you are today is the same essence of who you were before. And whatever was inside you created what you had. And if that's still there, so therefore, no matter what's been stripped away, they can't strip away your essence. They couldn't strip away his leadership. So people were willing to follow him based on the character or the essence of the person. Versus with James Gandolfini's character, people didn't like him. They despised him, and they were doing everything in their power to try to take him down. Versus with Robert Redford's character, they would do everything in their power to follow him. That's the essence of leadership. The style of leadership. Some people have this leadership style. This was James Gandolfini's character, where their leadership style is that leadership is about the responsibility of others to serve them. The responsibility of others to serve them. Versus Robert Redford's character, his style of leadership was a responsibility of him to serve others. So how do we look at leadership, and how do we pick our leaders? That's a really good question as well. Do you subscribe to people who are leaders that want others to serve them, versus do you subscribe to people who are leaders that want to serve the people? Very interesting. In my opinion, leadership has always been about what my responsibility to other people, not people's responsibility to me. Leadership is about taking care of others. Leadership is about making others better than what they were before. That's what leadership is really about. And there was one part of the movie that I thought was interesting as well, which is how do you see yourself based on the position that you're in? There was this wall that they were building in the yard, the prison yard. And a lot of the prisoners, they said, well, this is his wall, as in James Gandolfini's wall. He just has us doing this as a task. And Robert Redford said, no, it's not his wall, it's your wall. And he picked up this rock, and the rock was engraved based on a prison that had been there in 1912. And he said when the original prison was created, that the prisoners built the walls. And he said, I don't believe that when the person engraved his name on this wall, that he was building a prison. That in his mind, I believed he was building something else. He said he was building a castle. It was still 4 walls. It's still the same structure. But the structure in your mind could be a castle, or the structure could be a prison. So how he saw himself, regardless of the state, regardless of the condition that he was in, regardless of what was happening around him, regardless of the title he had, it's how do you see yourself in the circumstance? So what I want to leave you with today, think about leadership, think about your style of leadership, think about your essence of leadership, think about the character of leadership, but also think about what are you building in your life? Are you building prisons, or are you building castles? So until next time, my friends, like the video, share your comments, share the video out, and also remember to be valiant, be vigilant, and be victorious.